Hey, welcome yet to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Dr. Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga. If you're listening in today, I'd like to take this minute to thank you for each and every time that you tune in to listen to me as I teach about career development and personal development. Your support is invaluable to me, and I don't take it for granted. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Solution podcast. And if you'd like to be a fan, there are 3 ways you can support this show and spread the love. Every single share, subscribe count matters, so do not think your efforts go unnoticed. The first way you could support this show is by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews not only make the world a better place for me, as the podcast gets to many ears, but also rank our podcast higher in the podcast charts. You can subscribe to this podcast so that you do not miss out any episode as they are released. And also, you could choose to be a guest on the podcast by sending in an email. The email address is theframedsolutions@gmail.com. Thank you once again. Hi, welcome to the Solutions podcast. If it's your first time, welcome. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the benefits of self-awareness. I'll start by defining what self-awareness is. Self-awareness is the will to know oneself. To know oneself comes down to understanding who you truly are. I've been on a self-awareness journey for the last 4 years. And to be honest, it's been one of the most transformative periods of my life. I'll start with that story, a vulnerable story at that. So, for the longest time, I never knew I had a speech impediment. In fact, I used to give presentations during my PhD, during my master's, and many of the times the comments I would get from the people I presented to would be, the presentation was good, but we didn't understand most of the things that you talked about. I actually thought it was about the technical bits of the work that I was presenting that had an issue, but that was not the case. I did not know how to communicate when it comes to uttering out the words, the diction of words, and presenting myself in such a way that my audience would be able to understand what I'm talking about. So how I discovered this is that I started recording myself as I made presentations. I recall when I was doing my confirmation for my PhD, I recorded my presentation. And when I went back to listen to it, I noticed I was truncating some of the words. I was not pronouncing the words completely. And it was an eye-opener. I didn't know this was happening to me all this time. So I decided to go down the rabbit hole of understanding how I would improve my speech, of understanding what were the issues that were affecting me from giving clear speeches and being a better public speaker. In 2020, while I was on this journey, I decided to start my Solutions podcast. I recall the first time I recorded the first episode, it took me 4 days to record the episode. I'd written down the script of what I wanted to say, but I could not come to terms of making the presentation. That became an eye-opener. So, from 2020, I decided to start improving on my speech. I decided to learn more about speech therapy. I decided to seek advice from people who I was presenting to learn how I would improve my communication, how I would become a better public speaker. And it was me noticing that I had this issue, that I had to find solutions to solve it. That was the beginning of my self-awareness journey. Self-awareness comes down to understanding who you are truly. And you can do this in 2 ways. You can be self-aware in your internal, understanding yourself from within, and self-aware from your external, understanding how people perceive you when you do something. Let's say when I was presenting, that was the external self-awareness that I didn't have. I lacked the internal self-awareness because I didn't know I had an issue when it came to presentations. All I knew is that most times I'm scared because everyone has stage fright when you're presenting. It's very hard to present to a big group of people. Understanding myself from within, which is the internal self-awareness, I was able to determine ways to improve on my speech. So self-awareness comes down to two things. There's internal self-awareness, where you understand yourself from within, and there's external self-awareness. External self-awareness is understanding how the people you interact with are going to perceive you. It might be in your professional life, relations, let's say your intimate relationships. It might be through your friends. And what research has shown that the benefits of self-awareness are so many. In fact, I would sit here today and tell you over 20 benefits of self-awareness. If you love this podcast, do me a favor and leave me a rating and a review in your listening app. I read every review and every rating. They really make my day. So when it comes to self-awareness, there are two elements of self-awareness. There is the external self-awareness and the internal self-awareness. The external self-awareness is that you are aware of how your environment perceives you. Your environment could be your colleagues that you work with, your romantic partner or spouse, your immediate circle of friends, and the people you interact with on a daily basis. With internal self-awareness is that you know yourself from within. You understand your values, you understand your strength, you understand your weaknesses, and you leverage those to your advantage. According to the research done by Tasha, Ulrich, and colleagues, they found that there are 4 classes in which people fall in when it comes to self-awareness. There are the seekers. The seekers are those people who are starting their self-awareness journey. Most times they know that they need to change, so they have that internal self-awareness, and they lack the external self-awareness. Number 2 are the pleasers. Pleasers lack the internal self-awareness, but are very good at the external self-awareness, meaning there will be those people that will do things to please others because they know their environment is going to perceive them in a given way. Most times these people seek validation from others. Let's say you might do a course at university that you're not interested in, but because your parents want you to take up that field, you take that course, but when you finish your course, you end up having that job and you hate it. You went on to please your parents because you knew that pleasing them would be a very good thing for them, but you're not looking at what exactly you want. This happens to many of us who come from African families or families where your parents expect you to take up a given profession. Many people have pursued careers that they're not interested in only to fulfill their parents' wishes. Also, you might decide to do things that are contrary to what you believe in, but because you want to fit into a group, you are more of a pleaser. Women tend to fall in this caliber. Many of us as women, we love to please others. You might entertain a friend who is bad for you, but you're keeping this friend because you think you need them in your life as your friend. Number 3 are the introspectors. Introspectors are those people who are very good at their internal self-awareness, but they lack the external self-awareness. Meaning, you might apply for a job, you think you have everything it takes to get the job. Deep down, you believe you're the best candidate for the job, but when you do the interview, you don't get the job, or you're even not shortlisted for the job. Most of the time, these people are very good at understanding their internal self-awareness. They do a lot of introspection, mindful journaling, and the like, but they lack the external self-awareness. You might find the reason why you didn't get the job is because you are not the best candidate to have that job, but because you believed in the first place you are the best candidate, you end up being disillusioned because you didn't get that job. And when they don't get these jobs, they are left wondering, why didn't I get this job? Number 4 are the self-awareness unicorns. These self-awareness unicorns are those people who have everything it takes. They have the internal self-awareness and the external self-awareness. They have that balance between those two self-awareness. They know themselves on the inside, and they know how their environments are going to perceive them. They know how the people they interact with are going to perceive them. to arrive at that part where you are self-aware both in the internal and the external, you have to do the work. With these people who are self-awareness unicorns, they know when to seek constructive criticism. They know when to seek feedback from their mentors, from their managers, from the people who are going to help them get ahead. They can also tell from a person who is going to make them get ahead and a person who is just having that feedback. That's just feedback. Self-awareness unicorns love constructive criticism because they know they're going to use this feedback to get better at what they are doing. They want to see themselves make the changes that are going to propel their careers and their life ahead. So let's get into the benefits of self-awareness. When you're self-aware, you will know yourself both on the inside and how your environment perceives you, meaning that you're going to be a better emotional, intelligent person. You will be an empath. You will know when to empathize with others and when to speak and when not to speak. Number 2, people who are self-aware are better at their jobs. In fact, research has shown that companies that are led by self-aware bosses or leaders make more profit than companies that are led by people who are not self-aware. Self-awareness is going to let you capitalize on the things that you're good at. It's going to let you capitalize on your values, on your interests, on your passion, and also help you find ways to improve your weaknesses. As I've already told you my example, I've been able to improve my speech, and I'm on this continual journey of improving my public speaking because I became self-aware of that component of my life that I was lacking. Number 4, people who are self-aware are confident. When you know what makes you tick, when you know your credibility cocktail, when you know things that put you out of the crowd, when you know your unique perspective, you're going to stand firm and stand by your values, your passions, and your interest. Confidence is something that is built over time, and it requires you to be self-aware. So here are some of the ways I like to practice self-awareness. There have been a number of times where I've applied for jobs and I've not gotten them. Many of those times, I do not beat myself up. I'll sit and analyze my job application and figure out what could I have done better to have that job. Instead of asking myself the question of why didn't I get the job, I ask myself the question, what could I have done better to get the job? Recently, I shared an episode on my podcast where I told you that I've been able to get 2 promotions in a space of 3 months. And it was because of the self-awareness journey that I went on to be able to figure out the reasons as to why I should be promoted, to understand what I needed to do to get my next promotion. How do I need to present myself to be fit to be promoted? Those are things that you need to do on a daily basis. So instead of asking yourself questions of why didn't I get the job? Why am I failing? Try to rephrase those questions and ask yourself, what could I have done better? How can I improve in this area that I'm lacking? Let's say you're not getting along with your manager. The question to ask yourself is not, why am I not getting along with my manager? The question you need to ask yourself is, what can I do to get my manager to believe in my capabilities? What can I do to mend the relationship between me and my immediate manager? When you start asking yourself what questions, you bring in the rational part of your brain to think critically of the solutions that you're going to use to give you that intended result that you want. While when you ask yourself questions of why, your brain is going to get into that rumination whereby you're going to infatuate yourself with that question. You're going to stay asking yourself that question of why am I failing? And some of the answers might be, I'm failing because I'm not good at this job. I'm failing because I was not well educated, or I do not have a mentor, or I'm meant to fail. Those answers are ruminating answers. They do not provide you concrete solutions, but they just get you down that rabbit hole of feeling that self-pity and not believing in your capabilities. So focus on asking yourself what questions instead of why questions. With self-awareness, it's a continual process. You don't just do it one day and you're done. When you do self-awareness, you have to do it continuously and aim at getting better at answering those questions. Aim at getting better at understanding yourself from within. Like, I've not been well for 2 weeks. I've not been feeling well. And today when I decided to get back to doing things that I've always been doing, I asked myself the question, what has changed? What has changed is I've been working so hard at my work and I've also not been well health-wise. So instead of asking myself, why am I not feeling well? I'm asking myself the question, what can I do to become better or to start feeling better? Instead of asking myself the question, why am I not feeling better? You get it? So with self-awareness, you have to do it on a continual basis. Take time to sit and internalize your thoughts. Take time to ask yourself those questions of what instead of why. And take time to practice gratitude. Gratitude is going to help you see your journey, how it's progressed. It's going to help you understand that even if you're facing hurdles or setbacks, they are not the final destination. You are on this journey and you're going to evolve with time. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to my podcast. Follow this podcast. I know you might be having questions on how to advance your career and get ahead. Please drop me an email. The email address is theframedsolutions@gmail.com. If you love this podcast, do me a favor and leave me a rating and a review in your listening app. I read every review and every rating. They really make my day. Thank you so much for tuning in today and have yourself a wonderful day. Catch you in the next episode. Bye. I hope you've learned something from this episode. And if you have, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your family, friends, and those that you think are interested in career development. Also, follow me on the socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. The username is theframedsolutions. I can't wait to speak to you in the next episode. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.